You are running along a stone path carved into the side of a mountain, at an altitude higher than most clouds, and if you slow down, an entire empire's communication system slows down with you. The Andes, the Inca Empire. Sometime in the 1400s. Behind you, thin air burns your lungs with every breath. Ahead of you, the path drops away into a canyon so deep you can't see the bottom, crossed only by a swaying rope bridge that sways with every step you take across it. In a small pouch at your side, you carry a message you cannot read because you were never taught to. It might be news of a rebellion. It might be an order to move an army. It might be a report on how much maize a village harvested this season. You don't know, and it isn't your job to know. Your job is to run this message to the next station, hand it off without a single word wasted, and then rest. Because somewhere behind you, the man who handed it to you is already resting, and somewhere ahead of you, another man is waiting to take it from your hands and keep running. This is your life as a chasqui, a relay runner of the Inca Empire, one of the fastest, most reliable communication systems the ancient world ever built, using nothing but human legs, rope bridges, and mountain air. You weren't chosen for this job. Randomly. The Inca state, known to its own people as Tawantinsuyu, ran one of the most organized, centrally planned empires in the pre-modern world, and it selected chasqui specifically from a young age, based on physical ability, stamina, and proven reliability, from villages along the empire's vast road network. That road network is worth pausing on, because it's the entire foundation your job depends on. The Inca built and maintained a system of roads, collectively known today as the Capac Ngan, the Royal Road, stretching an estimated 25,000 miles across some of the most difficult terrain on Earth. High mountain passes, dense jungle, coastal desert, and everything in between. Sections of this road system included carved stone steps up impossibly steep mountainsides, causeways across marshland, and suspension bridges made from woven grass rope spanning deep canyon gorges, rebuilt and rewoven by local communities on a regular schedule specifically to keep this network functional. Along this road system, at intervals of roughly 1 to 2 miles apart, close enough that a single runner could sprint the distance at near maximum effort without needing to pace himself for endurance, sat small stone relay stations called tambos, or chasqui huasi. Each station housed at least 2 runners on rotating duty at all times, ready to receive a message and immediately continue its journey without delay. Here's the detail that made this entire system so remarkably fast for its era. You are never running long distances yourself. Your job isn't to carry a message across the whole empire. Your job is to run flat out, as fast as your body can physically manage, for just 1 to 2 miles, hand the message to the next runner waiting at the next station, and then recover while he does the exact same thing to the runner after him. This relay structure, historians studying the system have noted, allowed messages to travel astonishingly fast across enormous distances. Some estimates suggest important messages could cover roughly 150 to 200 miles in a single day, an extraordinary rate for a system built entirely on human running, centuries before anything like a postal service or telegraph existed anywhere in the world. Your training for this role likely began in childhood. Communities along the road network raised children with running and mountain endurance built into daily life from an early age, and boys who showed genuine promise were specifically selected and further trained for chasqui service. Sometimes as a formal, respected community responsibility passed down through specific families or lineages. Here's something that surprises almost everyone learning about this system for the first time. The Inca Empire despite running one of history's most sophisticated administrative systems, had no written language in the form modern readers would recognize. Instead, the messages you carry are usually delivered in one of two forms. Sometimes you carry a spoken message, carefully memorized and repeated back precisely, word for word to the next runner, a system that depended entirely on trained memory and disciplined, exact repetition, since even small errors introduced along a long relay chain could seriously distort an important message by the time it reached its final destination. More often, for anything involving numbers, records, or administrative data, you carry a quipu, a remarkable device made of a main cord with multiple smaller knotted strings hanging from it. Each knot's type, position, and color, encoding specific information according to a system understood by specially trained officials called quipucameox. You, as the runner, typically cannot read the quipu yourself. Your job is simply to carry it safely and quickly, handing it to specialists at the receiving end who are trained to interpret its knots. This detail illustrates something important about how this entire system worked. It depended on a strict division of labor, where speed specialists like you and interpretation specialists like the quipucameox each handled their own piece of an enormously complex administrative machine. The range of information traveling through this network was genuinely vast. Quipu records and messages carried through chasqui relay covered troop movements and military orders, tax and tribute records, since the Inca state ran an extensive system of labor and goods obligation from its subject populations, census information, and administrative reports from the empire's many regional governors back to the capital at Cusco. Here's a detail that captures the sheer priority the Inca state placed on this system. The road network and relay stations were maintained through a labor obligation system called mita, where communities along the route were specifically responsible for keeping their local sections of road, bridges, and stations in working order as a form of tax paid in labor rather than goods. Precisely because reliable, fast state communication was considered essential enough to justify dedicating significant ongoing community labor and resources to it. Speed wasn't your only job either. Chasqui are also documented carrying certain valuable or perishable goods across the empire using this same relay system. Most famously, fresh fish from the Pacific coast, relayed at speed, all the way to the Sapa Inca, the emperor himself, in the mountain capital of Cusco, arriving still fresh despite a journey that would have taken a single traveler many days on foot, but which the relay system, run at maximum sprint speed leg by leg, could accomplish dramatically faster. The Andes are not gentle terrain, and your job requires moving through some of the most physically demanding conditions any messenger system in history has ever operated in. Altitude alone is a genuine, constant danger. Significant portions of the Inca road network run through mountain passes at elevations exceeding 14,000 feet, where oxygen levels are dramatically lower than at sea level, and altitude sickness, headaches, nausea, extreme fatigue, and in severe cases, life-threatening swelling in the lungs or brain, was a real, documented risk, even for people born and raised in these mountains, who develop genuine physiological adaptations over generations that help but don't fully eliminate the danger. The terrain itself is treacherous. Sections of the Royal Road include narrow stone paths cut directly into cliff faces, with sheer drops of hundreds of feet on one side and solid rock on the other, sometimes just wide enough for a single person to pass. A wrong step, particularly at the running pace your job demands, could be fatal, and there was no safety equipment of any kind to prevent it. The rope suspension bridges deserve special attention because they're one of the most remarkable and, to modern eyes, terrifying pieces of Inca engineering. Woven entirely from natural fiber rope, some of these bridges spanned canyon gorges hundreds of feet deep and dozens of yards across, swaying visibly with wind and the weight of anyone crossing them. These bridges required regular rebuilding, typically annually, by local communities specifically tasked with the job. Since natural fiber rope naturally degrades over time in the outdoor mountain climate, you cross these bridges at running speed as a routine part of your job, trusting a piece of engineering rebuilt by hand every single year to hold your weight over a drop that would kill you instantly if the ropes failed. Weather compounds every one of these dangers. Mountain conditions in the Andes can shift dramatically and rapidly. Sudden freezing rain, thick fog reducing visibility to almost nothing, and temperature swings between scorching daytime sun and freezing nighttime cold, sometimes within the same 24-hour period. You run in whatever conditions exist the moment a message arrives at your station. There is no waiting for better weather when speed itself is the entire point of your job. Here's a detail that speaks to just how seriously the Inca state took the reliability of this system. Historical accounts describe extremely severe consequences for chasqui, who failed to relay messages promptly or accurately, reflecting how critical fast, reliable communication was considered to the functioning of an empire this large and this geographically difficult to govern by any other means. Your personal risk from the terrain itself was matched by real professional pressure to never let that terrain be an excuse for failure. For the roughly 100 years, the Inca Empire held its peak territorial extent, one of the largest empires in the pre-Columbian Americas, stretching along most of the western length of South America. This relay system was, in a very real sense, the nervous system holding the entire state together. Without it, a mountain empire this vast, with terrain this difficult, simply couldn't have functioned as a single coordinated state. Orders from Cusco needed to reach regional governors quickly. Reports of unrest, harvest failures, or military threats needed to reach the capital just as fast. The chasqui relay system made an empire of this scale and this geography administratively possible in an era with no other communication technology available anywhere in the world that could have matched it. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1530s, several documented accounts describe them being genuinely astonished by the speed and reliability of this system. Spanish chroniclers recorded messages and goods moving across distances at speeds that, by their own accounts, rivaled or exceeded anything comparable in contemporary Europe at the time, despite Europe's greater access to horses across much of its own, more open terrain. The system didn't survive the fall of the Inca Empire intact. Spanish colonial administration gradually dismantled and replaced much of the original state infrastructure, including the chasqui relay network, over the following decades, as Spanish colonial governance imposed its own administrative systems. But the physical road network itself, remarkably durable stonework built to withstand exactly the harsh mountain conditions you ran through every day, survived in large sections for centuries afterward, and substantial portions remain, remarkably, walkable and visible today, studied by modern engineers and historians as one of the most impressive infrastructure achievements of the pre-industrial world. Nobody chose to be born into a system where their entire worth to an empire was measured in how fast they could run at an altitude that could kill an untrained person just from breathing wrong. But for roughly a century, across some of the most difficult terrain any communication system in history has ever operated through, thousands of chasqui ran flat out along stone paths, across swaying rope bridges, through freezing mountain storms, carrying messages they couldn't read and fish they couldn't eat, 1 to 2 miles at a time, so that an empire spanning thousands of miles of nearly impossible terrain could function as a single, coordinated state. Some ran their entire careers without a single serious injury. Some fell from narrow cliffside paths, or succumbed to the altitude, or simply ran out of time before the next runner could reach them. All of them were part of a communication system so fast and so reliable that the people who eventually conquered their empire were, by their own written accounts, genuinely astonished by it. This was your life as a chasqui, a relay runner of the Inca Empire. If any part of this surprised you, let me know in the comments which detail changed how you think about ancient communication systems. And if you want to know how the Inca Empire actually built and engineered those impossible mountain roads in the first place, that video is coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.